Have you ever just wondered why it's so darn hard to kick a bad habit or to make a good one actually stick? Yeah, we've all been there. You set a new goal, you're fired up, you're full of motivation, and then a few weeks later, you're right back where you started. And we always blame ourselves, right? We think, I just need more willpower. But what if I told you the secret isn't about trying harder at all? What if it's about understanding the basic wiring of your own brain? Okay, let's dive into the fascinating neuroscience behind how our habits are really formed and, more importantly, how we can actually use that system to our advantage.
So let's just tackle this big question head on. The one we've all heard our entire lives. If you just try harder, if you just have more self-control, you can change anything. It's the foundation of so much self-help advice. But is that really how our brains work, especially when we're faced with these really deep-rooted behaviors? Well, a remarkable, true story from the Vietnam War suggests the answer is a huge no, and it completely turns everything we thought we knew about addiction and habit change right on its head. All right, so picture this. It's 1971. Two congressmen fly over to Vietnam, and they uncover a fact so shocking it sends these waves of panic back home. Follow-up research confirmed it. As many as 20% of U.S. soldiers serving in Vietnam were addicted to heroin. This was a full-blown catastrophe. At the time, heroin addiction was seen as this irreversible one-way street. So the assumption, naturally, was that hundreds of thousands of addicted soldiers were about to return to the U.S. and create this massive public health catastrophe.
But then, something absolutely incredible happened. Something that just baffled the entire scientific community. A researcher named Lee Robbins was assigned to track these soldiers when they got back home. And what she found was just stunning. Almost unbelievable. About 9 out of every 10 soldiers who were addicted to heroin in Vietnam, they just stopped. They kicked the habit pretty much overnight without any special rehab or therapy. It just flew in the face of everything the medical world knew. How is that even possible?
That incredible story, right there, just blows the lid off what we call the willpower myth. It shows us that the soldier's addiction wasn't just a matter of personal choice or some kind of moral failing. No, their habits were completely tied up in their surroundings. And this illustrates such a critical point for all of us. When it comes to changing our behavior, our environment, the actual context we're in, is often way more powerful than whatever intention we hold in our minds.
And this quote just flips the whole idea of discipline on its head, right? We always picture a disciplined person as someone who's constantly fighting off temptation, just winning through pure grit. But you know what scientists find when they actually study these people with what seems like superhuman self-control? They're not really in a constant battle. No, they're just masters of their environment. They design their lives so that the good choices are the easiest choices, so they almost never have to face temptation in the first place.
So here's the bottom line. Constantly trying to resist temptation is exhausting. Seriously, think of your willpower like a muscle. It gets tired the more you use it. Neuroscientists even have a name for this: decision fatigue. The part of your brain that handles this stuff, the prefrontal cortex, just burns through energy. So yeah, you might be able to say no to a cookie once or twice, but trying to stay on high alert day in and day out, it's a losing battle. It's a great short-term strategy, but it's a terrible long-term one. The real secret isn't having more self-control, it's building a life where you need to use it as little as possible. Okay, so if it's not willpower, then what is it? Well, to really get habits, we have to go deeper. Right into the biological machinery of the brain itself. Let's take a look at how our brains build these automatic routines that run so much of our lives, often totally without us even knowing it. This is where the science gets really cool.
The big idea here is something called neuroplasticity. See, your brain isn't a fixed object. It's more like living clay, constantly being reshaped by everything you do and think. Every single time you repeat an action, you are physically strengthening the neural pathways, the connections between your brain cells for that action. There's a famous saying in neuroscience that sums it all up. Neurons that fire together, wire together. A habit is, quite literally, a well-traveled road in your brain that gets faster and easier to take with every single repetition.
Now, to get why our brains are so eager to build these roads, it helps to think of the brain as having two different operating systems. You've got System 2, which is your conscious, deliberate mind. It's what you use to solve a tough math problem. It's slow, it takes a ton of effort, and it burns a lot of energy. And then you've got System 1. This is the fast, intuitive, automatic stuff. It's our brain's energy-saving autopilot. And that's all habits really are. They're the brain's genius strategy for moving tasks off of the slow, hard-working System 2 and onto the super-efficient System 1. It's all about saving precious mental energy.
So how does the brain package these actions for autopilot? It uses this clever process that scientists call chunking. Deep inside your brain, there's a region called the basal ganglia. You can just think of it as the brain's habit center.
And what it does is it takes a whole sequence of actions, like say backing your car out of the driveway, and it bundles them all together into a single routine, a chunk. At first you have to think about every step, but after you do it enough times, the whole thing becomes one fluid, automatic motion that you can do while your conscious mind is off thinking about something else entirely.
And all of this happens inside a simple but really powerful 4-step loop. It's the backbone of every single habit you have, good or bad. First, you've got the cue. That's the trigger that tells your brain which automatic program to run. That leads to the craving, which is the motivation, the wanting of the reward. Then comes the response. That's the actual habit you do. And finally, number 4, the reward. That's the payoff, the little bit of pleasure or relief that tells your brain, hey, that was good, let's remember this loop for the future. That reward, which is often driven by the chemical dopamine, is what locks the habit in place.
Okay, so let's tie this all back to that incredible story about the Vietnam vets. If every habit runs on this cue, craving, response, reward loop, what was the one huge thing that changed for them? It was the cue. By completely changing their environment from a war zone back to their homes in America, they basically removed all the triggers for their habit. And without that initial spark, the whole loop, which seems so unbreakable, just fell apart. This is the invisible architecture that is shaping our behavior every single day.
Scientists have a term for this powerful force: cue-induced wanting. And this isn't some conscious, logical desire, oh no. It's a deep, automatic craving that's sparked by something outside of you. Get this, in one study, scientists showed cocaine addicts a picture of the drug for just 33 milliseconds. That's literally faster than your conscious brain can even see what it was. And yet, brain scans showed their reward pathway lighting up instantly, creating a powerful craving for the drug, all without them even being aware of it. That's how powerful and how subconscious these environmental cues really are.
This just shows how deeply our habits are baked into a specific context. For the soldiers, the cues were everywhere. The constant stress of war, easy access, friendships with other users. The second they came home, every single one of those cues vanished. Or think about the therapist who quit smoking. She was fine for decades, but the moment she got back on a horse, something she always used to do while smoking, bam, the craving came roaring back. That old cue just fired up that old dormant pathway. And this is why bad habits are so often what we call autocatalytic. The process just feeds itself in a downward spiral. You feel bad, so you eat junk food, which then makes you feel bad, which reinforces the original cue to eat junk food. It's a vicious cycle.
So the number one most important, actionable takeaway from all of this is right here. If you want to break a bad habit, the best strategy isn't to try and fight the cue. It's to eliminate it. Just reduce your exposure. Make the cues for your bad habits invisible. And on the flip side, if you want to build a good habit, you do the exact opposite. Make the cue as obvious and in your face as possible. Redesign your world so that the path of least resistance leads you straight to the good habit you want to build. Now, even when we set up the perfect environment, there's another huge hurdle that trips us up. We don't see results right away, and we just get discouraged. You know the feeling. You start a new habit, you're consistent for weeks, maybe a month, but you look in the mirror, you look at your bank account, and it feels like nothing has changed. This is that critical moment where most people give up, thinking all their effort was for nothing. But what's really happening under the surface during this time is so important.
So we all expect progress to be a straight line, right? We think every day of effort should give us an equal, visible result. But the truth is, the results of our habits are almost always delayed. Progress is exponential. For a long, long time, the results are so small you can barely see them. And this gap between the straight line we expect and the slow curve that's actually happening is what's called the valley of disappointment. This is not a sign that you're failing. It's the period where your hard work is building up potential, like charging a battery. You just haven't hit that breakthrough moment yet.
I love this quote. It captures this idea perfectly. Imagine a stonecutter just hammering away at a huge rock. 100 times, nothing happens, not even a crack. Then, on the 101st blow, the rock splits right in two. Now, was it that last hit that did all the work? Of course not. It was the accumulation of all the pressure, all the stored energy from the 100 hits that came before it. Your habits work the exact same way. Every single repetition, every time you show up, you are storing energy in the system, even when you can't see the results.
So how do you get through that valley of disappointment? You do it by focusing on the process, not the outcome. And the 2-minute rule is just a brilliant way to do this. You want to read more, your new habit is read 1 page. You want to run a marathon, your new habit is put on my running shoes. The goal isn't to achieve the big thing in 2 minutes. The whole point is just to master the art of showing up. It makes starting so easy you can't say no. You have to standardize the habit before you can optimize it.
And as you can see here, it's all about reps. Every time you show up and do your 2-minute habit, you move a little bit further along this curve. At the beginning, the action takes a lot of conscious effort.
But with enough frequency, you eventually cross what's called the habit line. That's the magic point where the behavior becomes more automatic than it is conscious. And this is so key. Habits are formed based on frequency, not on time. It's not about doing something for 21 days, it's about how many repetitions you've put in. Okay, you've redesigned your environment. You're using the 2-minute rule to just show up every day. The last piece of the puzzle is, how do you stay motivated for the long haul? How do you stay engaged with a habit after it's not new and exciting anymore? Well, the secret lies in finding that perfect sweet spot of difficulty.
And this is known as the Goldilocks rule. It's simple. If a task is too easy, you get bored, you lose interest. If a task is way too hard, you get frustrated, you fail, and you give up. But right there in the middle, there's a zone of just manageable difficulty. This is where a task is right on the very edge of your current abilities. In psychology, this is related to something called the Yerkes-Dodson law. It shows that your best performance happens right at that midpoint between boredom and anxiety. It's the zone where you get into a state of flow, and it's where your motivation is at its absolute peak.
And the reason this works is because at a really basic level, our brains are wired to love a good challenge. When we solve a problem that is right at the edge of what we can do, we get a satisfying hit of dopamine. It's what keeps us engaged, what keeps us learning and growing. So the key to long-term progress, in anything really, is to constantly be moving on to the next level of challenge that keeps you right in that Goldilocks zone. You want just enough success to stay motivated and just enough struggle to stay hungry for more. So as we wrap all this up, I want to leave you with one final, practical question. Forget about heroic willpower. Forget about making massive, life-changing shifts overnight. Just think about your own Goldilocks zone. Based on everything we've talked about, from designing your environment to just showing up, what is one small challenge, one 2-minute action that you can start today that feels not too hard, not too easy, but just right? Because that simple thing right there, that's where true, lasting change really begins.